Hello and welcome to LFC Focus and to the new LFC Focus setup. It's a little bit different. This is my new uni home, so this is where the videos are going to be done from for the foreseeable future. If you like it, great. If you don't, sorry. But yeah, back to what is really important. Liverpool have just beaten Tottenham Hotspur by 2-1 at Wembley in a performance that I think the word that really sums it up is sound. I mean, Liverpool were not amazing. Liverpool were not dreadful, but the important thing is that Liverpool did exactly what they needed to do to beat Spurs, and I think there will be a whole inquest after this game of whether or not Spurs were terrible or whether or not Liverpool were just really good, and so many questions will be asked about Spurs title credentials and everything like that. But if you ask me about Spurs' performance, I think they were just fine. You know, they weren't amazing, and if they had been absolutely on it and at their absolute best, it could have been a very different game and probably a much more tense game. But I think Liverpool just did everything they needed to do, and the plan was so well executed. And Jurgen Klopp, just always with his substitutions, with the way he was marshalling things from the touchline, seemed to be on top of the situation the whole way through. And I think the biggest compliment you can give to Liverpool from that game is if you pulled me out at any point during that game and said who's going to score next, who looks most likely to score, it was always Liverpool, no matter how much Spurs had of the ball. And that was something that really encouraged me as well, was we were able to let the opponent have the ball. We didn't even have to put pressure on them. You know, when we play against Man City, they normally have more possession, but we always have pressure on them. We're always driving at their centre-backs, driving at their defensive midfielders, trying to win the ball back in threatening areas. We were happy to let Spurs have the ball as their centre-backs and as their midfielders in space on that huge Wembley pitch and say, you know what, that's fine. And the crucial thing is just that our defence is so good. And if I had to give a man of the match, it would have to be a joint man of the match. I think I'd give it to Joe Gomez and Virgil van Dijk, partially because I watched it at the pub and the screen was a little bit iffy and it was hard to tell who was Van Dijk and who was Gomez. But at the end of the day, that's almost a good thing because both of them are so good and they're such similar centre-backs in terms of how they're both so commanding, both so technically gifted, so fast, so strong. They're both so good that it's difficult to even tell them apart at times, and both of them were doing exactly what we needed from them. You know, like I said, Spurs had so much of the ball, and they had it in their defensive third, they had it in the midfield third, but whenever they got the ball into the final third, it was always our players who got that there first. It was either Alisson, Van Dijk, or Gomez who just sweep up, collect the ball, get our possession, and get us set forward on the front foot or something like that. It was just so impressive from Liverpool, and Spurs could never really get into the game. And obviously they have their goal at the end where it's the Lamela goal. And to be honest, I think you just got to give the lad credit to the finish. The only mistake you can maybe pick out from Liverpool there is maybe that he's left unmarked at the far post, and also Sturridge could probably make a little bit more of an effort to block it or something like that. But it is a really, really good finish. I wouldn't take anything away from Alisson, the goalkeeper, and say that he should have saved it or anything like that. But I think all in all, Liverpool were on top of the game all the way through. You know, Harry Kane was completely marked out of the game. I turned to my dad halfway through and said, as a genuine question, not even as a joke, not even as an attempt at banter or anything like that, I just asked him, has Kane touched the ball? Because we kept him under lock and key so well. But when Spurs did that thing where they launched it forward and it always went to Van Dijk or Alisson or Joe Gomez, they were trying to find Kane, they were trying to find their outlet, their goal-scoring talisman, and they just couldn't. And another thing that really impressed me was we never, like I said, we were just sound. We weren't amazing. And that's so important when you think about this run of fixtures we're going to have. If we're going to win all of these games, and obviously that's the target, is not just to get a certain amount of points and progress in one of the tournaments or anything like that. The target is to win every single match. And if we're going to do that, we're going to need to have games like this where we beat really good teams without being that great. And I mean, when you look at the midfield, my dad was saying it afterwards, they didn't even track back that much. You didn't see the midfielder hurtling back to try and pick up the pieces or anything like that. Same with the fullbacks as well. You didn't see Alexander-Arnold or Andy Robertson bombing backwards to try and make up space or anything like that. We just had everything under lock and key, and I think a lot of it was down to positional intelligence. And like I said, the Wembley pitch is so big that positional intelligence is so important in this game. You've got to be in the right place at the right time at all times, and it's one of the reasons that if Fabinho was fit, he would have been perfect for this game, because he's so good at being in the right place to cut out passes and stuff like that. But the players who were on the pitch today did their jobs so incredibly well. And obviously you've got the goals as well, and this is where the kind of the whole talk about that's the sign of champions comes in, because both of the goals come from really fine margins. You know, I feel like the Gini Wijnaldum goal, I'm tempted to even think that was a rehearsed routine on the training ground and stuff like that, because Van Dijk just puts the goalie under so much pressure. I think knowing that Michel Vorm was going to play instead of Hugo Lloris, we've pinpointed the goalie as a potential potential weak point in that Spurs side and told Van Dijk, get on him on the goal kick, on the corner kicks, make sure he's under pressure, because instead of being able to catch it, he has to punch it up in the air. Wijnaldum is in the perfect area, so it feels like it can't be planned. It's not coincidence, because everyone's in the right places to deal with that. And then it's a great header from Wijnaldum, because he just makes it loop. He forces the goalie to backpedal. He forces the goalie to get behind his line, and that's what ends up with us scoring. And then the second one as well, it's another fine margin, because Mane plays a really good ball. You know, he forces Vertonghen into a situation where he can't clear it, but he has to get a touch on him because he knows Firmino's behind him. So he has to get something on the ball, but he knows he can't get something great. He pushes it onto the post, and then it bounces perfectly to Firmino, and Firmino just slots it in. And again, it's partially that Liverpool are so good at exploiting those kind of situations, and partially just that those fine margins seem to have ever so slightly gone our way in this game. So all in all, there have been so many positive signs from that game, and to be honest, not really anything worrying. You know, the only thing that you could take away that's potentially worrying is the fact that at times our front three didn't look 100% on it. But again, there you've got to take into account the fact that Spurs have still got a very good defence, even though they're off it. And I mean, they gave the ball away a lot today, and it's something I spoke about in the pre-match video, that if we're going to win this game and if we're going to do well, we need them to do what they did against Man U, where they were just so sloppy, giving the ball away all the time. They looked tired, they didn't look quite on it, and obviously they win that game, but we've got to be better than Man U, and we've got to take advantage of those situations, and crucially, Liverpool did in this match. And I just think even though we weren't on it, everyone did exactly what they needed to do. I think about players like the fullbacks, who are normally so pivotal to our system, who are normally on the ball so much and always involved. They were rarely on the ball, but they just did what they needed to do. Andy Robertson was always there defensively to cut out any balls down Spurs' right-hand side, and the same with Trent Alexander-Arnold as well. So I just think that was such a confident and mature performance from Liverpool, and gave so many promising signs in terms of the fact that the manager especially seemed to always be on top of what he was doing, especially when you compare him to Pochettino, who certainly when you look at his subs, I feel like he lost his head a little bit in that game. But all things considered, a fantastic performance from Liverpool. I think absolutely the man of the match has to be a joint award going to Van Dijk and Joe Gomez. Both of them were immense. Both of them did exactly what they needed to do, and both of them took so much pressure off the rest of the side that I am now not worried at all about fatigue going into the PSG game, because our defenders were so absolutely sound that everyone else on the pitch didn't even need to break a sweat for most of that match. So Liverpool were fantastic. Spurs were just fine. But the crucial thing is Liverpool are that good now that if you're a team as good as Spurs, and if you deliver a performance that you would consider to be good enough, you still cannot beat this Liverpool side. So we have got a 100% record. We are not knackered at all. So we are ready to go for that PSG game as well. Stick around for the pre-match video for that. That will be on Sunday as well. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed it. Hit that subscribe button there if you're new around here. Check out some of the other videos that have been out on the channel over the past few days as well. Don't forget to follow at LFC Focus TV on Twitter. I'll be back tomorrow with the pre-match video for the game against PSG. Until then, bye for now.